At this time, I would like to call Ms. Kaiser up to the podium to kind of give the board an update on the transportation rollout of the new board policy.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? All right. So it's a little better today because I can probably see it, not like last time. So with the subscription applications, I just want everyone to know we got 567 applications. The breakdown among the schools, the high school was 177. Of that 177, 45 of them will be hazardous. MAMS was 192. Of that, 56, maybe a couple more will be hazardous because I'm still working on some of the numbers they gave me. Lloyd Road, 74, 16 are hazardous. Strathmore was 66, 5 were hazardous. Cliffwood, 26, and 6 of them were hazardous, and 5 of them were mandated already, so we could just take them off. Cambridge, we got, I want to say it was 26 maybe, and all of them will be bused because obviously we bus all of Cambridge. So with that said, this doesn't include the students that did not fill out subscription busing. So we still have 136 just on the subscription busing forms. It's 136 students that will now be hazardous. That doesn't include any of the students that I'm routing in the system that were hazardous to begin with. A lot of them stayed hazardous. There were a couple that did not. So I'm going to say maybe 20 plus students were falling off of the hazardous that we were doing, the non-hazardous that we didn't have. We're going to fall off. So I know that we're going to grandfather those little groups in because it was at the elementary level. So they are going to be grandfathered in. What we did was, which I didn't say last time, was anticipation of all of the subscription busing and/or hazardous. We went out to bid early on and we ended up getting, I believe it was 4, I think it's 4 routes. No, that's not what we did. I'm sorry, I take that back. What we did was we sent out 3 of our full routes, like all 4 tiers. We sent them out for bid. We did get them taken so that we could take drivers off of their regular routes, and we're going to put them on them, and that gave us all of those routes for subscription busing. We did go out again, and we have, in total, we have 6 routes, 6 extra routes on the 4 tiers. So that gives us 324 seats. 431 of the 567 will be subscription busing. So those 6 routes gives us 324 extra seats. What we did in the office in anticipation of that was we sent out, because we do shuttle runs in the morning. So what we did was we sent out our career center and that stuff, so that will free up for MAMS and high school, which is where all of this is coming from. So when we get that will give us 432 seats. That puts all 431 kids on subscription busing, the ones that applied. Hazardous will probably go up from the 136 once I get everybody routed, and the new kindergartners that are not in the system right now. Once we add all those in, I'm sure a lot of them will become hazardous. That's pretty much what I have so far. The routing is going along fine. Probably in the next couple of weeks I'll be done with all of it, and then I can give you the actual numbers of how many of them were hazardous as, once they're all routed. Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions regarding this? The numbers? And one thing that I noticed is that we're not exactly where we want to be with the timeline, but I think our hope is that we can get all the parents notified the first week of July.
Yeah, I mean, the timeline, we tried really hard to get to that timeline, but I just need everyone to understand, doing the hazardous part of it is very, very time consuming because we've ran into, like I said last time, we had drivers out doing it, but now that I'm actually taking a look at it, especially on the subscription forms, some of it wasn't right. So we are trying to make sure we get that right. So we are working really hard to get the routes done so that we can notify the parents. And July, that seems like a good time, but hopefully a little bit sooner.
And then I think I've asked you this at another meeting, but most of the hard work is all up front. Once we get the zones and we have an idea, it shouldn't take this long every year.
No, because what's going to happen is in the TransFinder system that we use now, Once we get everybody routed and we have everybody so that we can let the parents know, the three of us are going to go back in and we're going to stick the numbers in as to what their actual hazardous number was, or if they weren't entitled to it. So at least this way, when everybody calls, we can let them know where they fell on the guide.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions?
I have some questions. Those were a lot of numbers, and not having them written down, I'm numerically challenged, so just bear with me.
Okay.
So you have 136 students that are now getting hazardous busing through hazardous route that are new. So that was in addition to what already
we were already
existed?
doing.
Okay. And then, I apologize if you said this. Like
No,
I said,
it's okay.
too many numbers coming at me orally, I tend to get a little jumbly. How many students applied for subscription busing in total?
567.
567. And of those 567 students, were any of that, I don't know if you know it, but what portion of that is the 136 the amount of the people that applied for subscription busing that had hazardous?
That are actually hazardous, yes.
That are actually hazardous. So there's also a number of people who did not apply for subscription busing that already knew they were getting busing because of hazardous route.
Well, yeah, like schools like Cliffwood, Strathmore, and Ravine Drive, the ones that were already on the hazardous, even after we did the numbers, we're going to continue to stay there. We did pick up a couple, and like I said, we did lose a couple with the new hazardous guidelines, and that's maybe like 20 plus, but we are going to continue to transfer them as a grandfathered in.
So I don't know if you know this, but what is, with the 136 new students, what's the total number of students that were busing, that get busing through hazardous route? Do you have that number?
I don't have a total number, but just to give you an idea, for Cliffwood itself, it's about 224 that we did it, because they're all coming across the highway off of 35, so we always transported them. And for Ravine Drive, maybe like 100, but we'll be adding a few more, but we transport anybody who's coming across 34 and 79 for Ravine Drive. And that kind of goes the same. Lloyd Road, because it's actually still in elementary, we kind of follow the same guidelines with them as we did for, the other three elementaries.
Thank you. So, your anticipation is that you'll be able to notify the parents, as you just mentioned. The 432 number, can you just remind me of what that number is then?
It's 431, and that's of the 567 who applied for subscription busing, 431 will still remain subscription busing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good. All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call Ms. Perez up to the podium for our Tools of the Mind pre-K curriculum presentation. I'd also like to say that thanks to Ms. Perez and Ms. Laser's hard work, we've just found out that we're eligible for pre-K grants through the state, which I believe the application is coming out July, which we are well positioned and ready to go with a complete application already. So thank you.
I'm going to start talking while we get this up. So 2 years ago, when Special Services took over the preschool, we had 2 classes of Gen Ed only tuition students. They were AM and PM sessions, and now we have 6 full inclusion classrooms in addition to our preschool disabled classrooms. And I'm giving you a highlight of historically how we came to where we are. Our focus has been on strengthening the curricular programming and also creating a more inclusive environment for our students. So knowing that we were headed towards the possibility of receiving funds from the state, as well as expanding our program to align to our goals, we created a committee made of child study team members, teachers, and myself and other admin. We visited schools. Phillipsburg and Neptune, both of them are state-funded programs, just to see how they run their programs, what curriculum they use. We consulted with experts in the field. We attended several early childhood conferences. And after a lot of discussion and really examining the programs that are out there, for those of you that don't know, there are only 5 state-approved preschool curriculums that we could have chosen. We decided that we wanted to move towards tools of the mind. Thank you. For several reasons, but more than any other state-approved curriculum, it helps teachers provide instruction that's aligned to the state standards while really giving them the ability to address the needs of our diverse learners. And also, it provides teachers with strong strategies and varied instructional practices in a concrete way, which really is what a lot of our students at that age developmentally need, especially those that have disabilities. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to Rachel Alvarez, who is our school social worker. We did have our BCBA and one of our teachers here last week to present. They couldn't be here this week. So Rachel's going to do the whole thing herself.
Hi, my name's Rachel Alvarez. I'm a school social worker. I am also an incredibly enthusiastic supporter of preschool and research-based and very structured preschool programs. I've had the opportunity to work in preschool for a good amount of years in several districts, and I'm really, really excited to talk to you guys a little bit about Tools of the Mind, because what it does very well, as Maggie had said, there are only 5 state-approved programs for preschool, and the reason there's only 5 is because we look at very highly research-based programs because these are our youngest learners. And so Tools of the Mind focuses primarily on 4 things. It focuses on understanding symbolic language. And so when we look at preschool, we look at these are the skills that you're going to learn going in, and that is going to shape the next 20, 30, 40, 80 years of your life as a learner. And so what Tools of the Mind focus on is symbolic language, learning what language is, what letters mean, what words mean, what pictures mean, and how we can communicate to others. It also equally focuses on self-regulation skills. And I've worked pre-K straight up through college, and really what we've learned is these are those 21st century skills that our students are going to need going into the rest of their education. And self-regulation, and Tools really focuses heavily on that, is self-regulation is kind of that key piece to understanding how to learn. If we can't regulate our emotions, if we can't regulate our communication skills, if we don't know how to speak and work with each other, we can't possibly learn. Equally, Tools then takes that a little bit further and really works with make-believe play. And so I know when a lot of people think of preschool, they think of that old school, like there's a lot of little sections around, and the kids go play in sections without a really beginning, a middle, or an end. And then they come together and they have some cookies and juice, and they go on with their day, and eventually they get to school. And Tools takes that and kind of takes that whole philosophy and turns it on its head. And what it really does is say, we want our children to be creative thinkers. We want them to know how to play. We want them to learn how to use their imagination to take eventually these STEAM classes and these math classes and go out and really explore who they're going to be as the next generation of learners and teachers. And so by taking those play skills, they're learning really how to become creative thinkers, how to become problem solvers, and how to learn. But going back to the piece about self-regulation, without regulation, kids have a hard time learning. They have a hard time learning how to share. They have a hard time learning how to take turns. They have a hard time learning how to communicate with each other, how to build these skills. By having regulation, they're starting to learn and say, okay, I can't always go first. I have to share with my friend. I'm really angry, and my fists are clenched, and I'm very angry, and I'm going in the corner and hiding. Versus identifying that feeling I have right now is anger. And I don't know why I'm angry, but I'm going to communicate with my teacher, and I'm going to say I'm angry because of. And by doing that, I'm learning how to solve problems. I'm learning how to communicate with my friends. I'm learning how to get my needs and wants answered. With Tools, as a highly structured program and as a highly research-based program, they take all those pieces. And the difference between our curriculum now, which is high-scope curriculum, and Tools of the Mind is they are both play-based, they're both language and literacy-based, they're both math-based, they're both emotional reasoning-based. But what Tools does a little bit better is it takes this great philosophy, which High Scope does so well, but it applies it to an actual school day. And the piece that really separates the two is High Scope kind of has a little bit here, it kind of follows the kids, it doesn't really take into ideas of parameters like lesson plans, like planning, like really having all these pieces. And what Tools does is take all those pieces and puts it into a very scheduled day to really help learners build those regulation skills, which they do by having a very cohesive, very regulated schedule. One of the key things with Tools of the Mind, and one of the key skills I think we've learned that kids need really way through high school, is the concept of listening and learning from each other. And so it really focuses on the concept of buddy reading, where during their opening circle, that community time, they're often partnered up with the same partner, different partners, taking turns, where they each get a book. And one student has listening ears, one student has the talking mouth, because we teach our preschoolers with visuals, and they take turns reading stories to each other, listening to each other. So it's not always about who gets to do this, or the louder students really kind of shine. Each student is able to partner in a way that they're able to learn from each other in a large group, but it breaks it down into a smaller group. Focusing a lot on make-believe play is students have multiple areas to play in. They have a dramatic play area, they have a block area, they have a science area, they have a writing area, they have an art area. And in each of these areas, they're able to really explore not just playing with blocks or not just playing in a kitchen or playing with puppets. They're really able to dig deep and understand what kind of play works for them. And so in this play, they develop a play plan. And what a play plan does is it really works hard on saying, we're not just going to go and play for 2 hours and then when we, stop, we're done. What a teacher does is sit with a small group of students and really develops a play plan. Now, in the beginning, a student might just point to a block area, and that's great. But what the teacher is working with each individualized student on their level is taking that from blocks to, I want to go play in blocks. Absolutely.
This is also the introductory piece to scaffolded writing, which they'll bring up with them to kindergarten. And if you look here, you can see that on the left is what you typically see at the beginning of preschool. On the right, you have a child who actually is writing words and beginning and ending sounds after going through the program.
And as Maggie was saying, this right here is kind of the crux of where you can see it, because Tools actually does also have a kindergarten program. And what you can kind of see from those play plans is that crux of where the kids start to where they're learning how to take that symbolic language and start creating words and start creating pictures that go with the words, to they are taking those academic skills into kindergarten. Going along with that, their day is structured around this playtime, the plan time, the large group community building time, the small group time where they're getting individual work time, and so on. The other piece that we kind of touched on a little bit is Tools really works for all learners. It works for our typical kids. It works for our very highly structured kids, our gifted and talented kids. It works for our kids who may have some delays and disabilities, because the nice thing about Tools is it really focuses on that individual student. And so it doesn't leave kids behind on either level. And it really works for those kids to get them, if they're here, to get them up here, no matter where here is for them. And so it doesn't leave either our special needs students behind, and it doesn't leave our gifted and talented students behind as well, because everything is really working on figuring out that level and moving that up. We're working on bringing in trainings, and our first 2 training days to really get both our teachers and our teachers' aides up and prepared and ready, as well as the support staff, will be at the end of August to kind of pilot in the new year. Because one of the pieces that in New Jersey for preschool programs, especially public preschool programs, they really focus on is that partnership between both the teachers, the aides, the support staff, and the administration. Can I ask if there's any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And
I'm sorry, I just have,
Yeah,
I have one question. I
absolutely.
thought everyone was quick.
Yeah.
My only question is just about the professional development. I'm sorry, Maggie. You guys thought you were done, and then I come back with a question. So you said that the first professional development session will be in August, but are all the teachers going to be in attendance for that? And is there going to be a follow-up if they're not there? So if they can't come to that August training, let's say, they can go during the school year, but they'll have to go to a separate one, is that right? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And we will keep you posted as to the grant.
Oh, you mean like an online training? Oh, gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to call up Ms. Mona Tovia, who is our Director of Curriculum and Instruction for Pre-K through 5, who's going to talk about literacy and math programs.
Thank you. I'm going to begin with the elementary math update, and I will go through this pretty quickly. How did we get here? Well, we've been looking at our math program through the course of the school year, looking at data, surveying teachers, talking to administrators, looking at programs in other districts. Our biggest concern is our current student achievement data. We've noticed that the data is telling us a lot, and we need to really look at the current math program that we're using, which is Everyday Math. Everyday Math is a phenomenal program. It's wonderful. When we switched to Common Core several years ago, Everyday Math updated their program, and the new program isn't quite what the old program was, and that's our concern. So I listed some of our math achievement and growth. I know you've seen this data. We shared that when we went over the park presentation back in October. Essentially, our math scores are not where we want them to be on state assessments. And so the data shows you same students, consecutive grades. We really just want those scores to be higher. It's important that our students are achieving their best. What we did was we surveyed the staff to get their feedback on the current program, and just some of the questions, and I'll summarize for you. Let's see. We surveyed all of the teaching staff in K through 5 and had 41 respondents. When we take a look at it, it was pretty evenly split, having teachers from each grade represented in their responses. Teachers know what's going on in their classroom. They know how students are achieving, whether they're being successful or whether it's something we need to look at. And the fact that we had almost half of our teachers say that they're not satisfied with the results was something that we needed to consider. We needed to make sure that we weren't lacking in an area. So we asked the teachers, do they feel that they've had adequate training? Because that was very important, because if they didn't feel that they had the training, then that was something that we could easily do to help them be more successful in the classroom. As you can see, 85% felt that they had adequate training. I can go through the teachers' listed strengths of the program. They liked the materials. They liked the online resources. They liked the organization in some instances. When I went back and looked at what are the weaknesses of the program, I'll do a quick summary. One of the things Everyday Math does is it spirals. And what does that mean? That means there's a new concept that students are working on every day. And so you might be working on fractions one day, and then the next day you might be working on word problems. And then the next day you can be doing something with geometry. And there's not much time to master one thing. You go back and you review, but that spiral sometimes confuses students, and that's pretty much the consensus of what the teachers were saying, that they feel students need some more time to work on the same skill for several days so they feel content and they feel that they've reached some sort of level of mastery. We asked teachers, would they be part of the math committee? Yes, no, maybe. You can see the no's were really very few when you look at the teachers who wanted to be part of it to have a say. And the maybe was, depends when we're meeting. You know, can I get childcare? Can I get there? But if you take a look, 2/3 of the teachers really were interested in being part of that and having a say, and that's really telling about our staff. Our staff really cares about the curriculum and about their students. If we look at new programs, would you be willing to pilot? Interesting. Remember, half the teachers said that they were content, but more than half would be willing to pilot and look at a different program. To me, that's telling. Even though they're content with the program, they're willing to look at something else. Those numbers didn't match up. So there were 40% who wanted to pilot and another 41.5 that would be considering it. And again, the maybe is, what does that mean for me? Like, is it going to be that much extra work? Am I going to be able to swing the meetings and the trainings because childcare and other activities and commitments? Some of the things that teachers wanted to share, they felt that parents had a hard time reviewing or completing homeworks. A lot of people wanted to see that they are willing to pilot, they want to be part of a committee, it depends on the hours. You know, the rest is really a lot of redundancy, but the teachers had a say, and that was the important part. Okay. So what steps did we take? Again, discussions with staff at each building, grade level meetings. The thought partners represent each grade level in each of the elementary K through 3 buildings. The Lloyd Road staff had many meetings of their math department to share information. The administrators through the course of the year, I meet with the elementary admin team once a month. We talked about it at length. We reviewed other programs. We had people from other districts share with us what they were using. We looked at materials from My Math, Go Math, Big Ideas, Ready Math, Bridges, Everyday Math. I sent out a survey to members of the MC3, Monmouth County Curriculum Consortium, to find out what other districts are using. Are they satisfied? Are they looking at new programs? Because we really wanted to do our homework. When the math committee finally convened, we talked about things that were important because we did get together. They wanted teacher trainings. They wanted to make sure student materials were accessible and easy to use, that the teachers' materials were, again, very user-friendly. They wanted an online component. They wanted scope and sequence that did not spiral, and they wanted to make sure that we focused on the math practices because that's the best way to teach math. We actually had a meeting where teachers set up things that were non-negotiable, and we're going to look at rubrics and creating a rubric as we explore different programs. This is just a sample. The math committee will work on creating one on our own. Things that they were looking at was that it's aligned to the standards, that there is technology at home, technology for the teachers to use, manipulatives and differentiation, homework in both English and Spanish, and again, non-spiral. We are going to be piloting 2 programs, and the 2 programs are Big Ideas and Ready Math, Ready Classroom Math. And we were going to be doing 1 class of each program at each grade level. Okay, so moving forward, the committee is formed. We actually even have members from MAM, 6th grade math, who are going to be sitting on the committee because it's important. What we do at the elementary level is important for our middle school math teachers as well. We've discussed the goals of the committee and that everyone has a voice on the committee. So even though teachers may not be piloting, they still can see sample materials, they can go into classroom, they have a voice in the meeting, they'll look at the rubrics. We might choose a lesson, say, adding fractions, and look at that particular lesson in both programs to have somebody who maybe isn't piloting the program still have a voice, because we don't want to shut people out. Anyone who wants to have a voice and be part of the committee really should be welcomed. They're going to have classroom visits, we're going to evaluate lessons, and the math committee members will work with the pilot teachers. And throughout the course of the year, we'll be checking in. So the 2 programs are Big Ideas and Ready Math. Big Ideas is the program that we're currently using at our middle school and high school, and so it was important that we considered this program. It meets our criteria. It uses the universal design for learning to create an engaging, innovative program, hands-on activities, and again, one of the things that we liked about it is it would be the same language, the same method of instruction that's already being successfully implemented at middle school and high school. And it got good reviews. And the other program was Ready Classroom Math. Ready Classroom Math is discourse-driven, blended mathematics curriculum. That means it's blended. There's the instruction in the classroom, whole group, small group, and then there's a strong online component, which the teachers who sat in on the we had them come twice. The teachers who sat in really were very pleased with what the program had to offer. It also has excellent reviews. We've spoken to people in different districts who are currently using the program. And I think that's it. Any questions about the math, or should I continue with literacy and handle it once? Okay, literacy. So we are currently using Literacy by Design successfully. We are in our second year of using Literacy by Design in grades 4 and 5, and we just completed our first year of using Literacy by Design for students in grades 2 and 3. What I can tell you is we've had incredibly positive feedback, not only from our teachers, but from parents, from administrators, and from the coaches who have been working with the teachers, telling me, telling the administration, the success that the teachers are meeting with. They feel that there's a lot of structure, and they feel that their students are feeling more confident. There's a grammar component that didn't exist in our previous program, and it's been good. We're hoping that we will start seeing some results to support that when we see our standard-based tests. Moving ahead, we want to continue our reflection. We're going to be using the data, linked data, New Jersey Student Learning Assessments, iReady, to adjust instruction and to make sure that what we're doing is best for students. We are going to be aligning our social studies curriculum with the themes in Literacy by Design. Literacy by Design goes back and forth between social studies and science themes, and each theme and unit is a 10-day, and then it cycles into the next unit. We're going to make sure that we're monitoring pacing, because that's one of the things we realized this year, is that we want to make sure that the teachers in the classes are similarly paced. We don't want our classes to be, Stepford. We don't want everyone on the same page at the same time, because we want teachers to feel comfortable, and teachers have said that using this resource, they are comfortable differentiating and meeting the needs of the students in their class, going faster, going slower, repeating what needs to be repeated, reteaching. But at the same time, we don't want, one class to be 2 units or 3 units or 4 units ahead of another. We also want to make sure that we're looking at assessments and maybe making sure that we're only giving assessments that are necessary. So if there's a mid-year or end of the year, we're looking at whether or not it's necessary to be administering those assessments, because we don't want to over-test our students. At the same time, we love the common assessments and the information that the common assessments of LBD is giving us. And finally, we want to focus on providing professional development for our elementary homeroom teachers on Tier 1 interventions. Our interventionists are amazing. They are trained in Lindenwood Bell or in Gillingham, Double Dose Foundations. They have so many tools and strategies to help students who are selected to receive those interventions. But the big focus for next year, especially in the literacy and math as well, but especially in the literacy, is to focus on providing PD for those homeroom teachers so they have strategies and supports for more Tier 1 interventions to help the students in their classrooms. Okay, kindergarten first. We are currently using a Readers and Writers Workshop model. That's nothing new. But what we are going to do is work on some curriculum revisions this year using the Lucy Calkins Units of Study for Reading framework. We're going to make sure that we look at our curriculum and have the best curriculum possible. We are working on professional development to offer support for our teachers, because we want to make sure that the teachers in kindergarten first have the same supports that have been offered to the teachers at the older levels for the last few years. Kindergarten and first really need that support. So we will have lots of professional development planned. We have coaching for kindergarten and first grade teachers at each of the 3 buildings 3 times. It's scheduled for 3 times for them for the course of the year. And we're also having the coach come in to work with the teachers on our in-service days next year. And again, the Tier 1 intervention. As far as assessment tools and universal screeners, we're going to be bringing back a tool that was previously used, that's Dibbles, and we're going to use that in place of Star Renaissance. It's going to be administered as a quick universal screener to all students, grades K through 3, by the interventionists in the building. And that will be administered 3 times a year. We're also bringing in iReady Diagnostic for all students grades K through 5. iReady is web-based and adaptive and will help provide us with information, diagnostic information to help students with specific skills and strategies that they need. We're going to continue using Linkit. Linkit is a benchmark assessment. Again, it's administered to all students, grades K through 5. It differs from iReady in that it's not necessarily a diagnostic, not an adaptive test. It tests students at grade level. We're going to be reserving DRA for our interventionists. It's going to be administered by them for our Tier 2 and Tier 3 students, by the homeroom teachers as needed, by the interventionists for all students who receive intervention. And the goal for that is to allow more time for instruction. We've discovered that using DRA for all students, grades K through 5, 3 times a year, just takes too much time, too much valuable time out of instruction. And we want to make sure that we use it as a tool for students who really need it. So we'll use our DRA and we'll use, we'll use iReady and we'll use the Linkit data and we'll use the Dibbles data as our general screeners for all. Lastly, it's just hopefully a goal that will help students in grades 3. A few years ago, I was involved in the pilot when we switched Lloyd Road from straight homerooms to departmentalized homerooms, where students went from one class in the morning for language arts and social studies and an afternoon class for math and science, or vice versa. Mr. Van Horn wants to try this next year with his 3rd grade teachers at Cliffwood School. Pros include greater level expertise and deeper understanding. Teachers can become experts at their particular subject. They'll be able to better differentiate and meet the needs of students. And it will help students best prepare for the changes that they'll meet when they move over to Lloyd Road. Teachers were very, very excited about the plan. It worked out the same way when we did this over at Lloyd. When we asked teachers if they were interested, they all said yes, they were very excited. When we asked teachers which subject would you prefer, it was a complete even split. You know, teachers are more comfortable teaching a subject that they feel that they're more successful in. So somebody who might not be as comfortable with math, well, they can focus on the literacy. And we're hoping that this will be beneficial to our children. That's all I have. Any questions?
Does anyone have questions regarding the curriculum?
She chuckles at me because she knows I will. Yes, I do, as a matter of fact, have a couple of questions. Sorry, everyone. You mentioned that you'll be utilizing a variety of different assessment tools, and in particular, you mentioned Dibbles. So just to clarify, Dibbles is going to be utilized 3 times a year and is also going, K3, and is also going to be the screener, the dyslexia screener. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Okay. And then my other question is, Well, actually, a comment. One is I want to say that I really appreciate the work that was done to sort of be responsive to the data outcomes. So looking at, just in particular with the math and talking about those numbers and really being frank with us to let us know, okay, you know what, these numbers are not where we would like them to be. And so, the district's willingness to, make a change and respond to that, and also incorporating the feedback from the teachers. I really enjoyed hearing you say that, you wanted to listen to what the teachers, response was to how they felt like the current program was going, and as well as bringing them on board for the committee. And I think, I just have to commend the work that our curriculum department does in that regard, because I think that you understand the value of instilling buy-in and bringing in the expertise of the people who are on the front line, and I think that's fantastic. The other question I had was just in terms of the Tier 1 intervention PD. So is that going to be like a push-in type of coaching model, or are you going to do specific professional development for Tier 1 interventions for general classroom teachers?
I'm hoping to take advantage of the experts we have in this district. We have, like I said before, our interventionists are absolutely amazing. Last year, Raquel Calea, one of our teachers, actually provided the in-service for our first grade teachers on the first day of school, and I can't begin to tell you the positive feedback that I had from the teachers. It was first grade, I think it was just first grade, and some of the related arts or related service professionals, and she provided them with different strategies, and you know what, they had takeaways. They made things that they can use in class during the course of the year. So my plan isn't to bring anybody else in. My plan is to use the experts that we have. Another thing that we're doing, and this is through our K through 12 articulation, is we're having a lot of classroom visitations. So we're arranging for some of the teachers to go in and visit other classrooms. So I'm not sure if they've talked about the pineapple chart that they've been using at Cliffwood School, but we'll celebrate teachers who are doing something great in their classroom and say, hey, come in and see what I'm doing. And like I said, we have experts in this district that we can really tap into, and it would be foolish for us not to.
Thank you so much. And then the last thing is just with regard to the DRA. So you said that you're going to be utilizing that only because of how time-consuming it is to administer, and also all these online programs, as we know, all have entry point assessments with them. So every time a student embarks on one of these programs, they have to take the initial test. So I really appreciate the eye towards trying to streamline the amount of tests that we're giving students. But I'm just curious about the DRA. Are you keeping the DRA in and of itself just because we own it and have invested in the kits, or because you like the information that it gives with regard to data, and I'm guessing going beyond those basic DRA tests if you're using it for Tier 2 and Tier 3, doing the further probes, is that right?
Yes, you know what? DRA is a fantastic tool. The problem is it is time-consuming, and we have invested a lot of time in training teachers, and we still have teachers who are on maternity leave. There's turnover, there's changes. We can't keep up with it, with training and making sure it's implemented and with accuracy, in fidelity. Our teachers are phenomenal, but when I went to a grade level meeting, there were 3 teachers who were just there, filling in for, maternity leaves, or they didn't have the great training, so the kids that were assessed might not really be as accurate as we would like. DRA takes about 3 weeks, and it's 3 times a year, so that's 9 weeks of instruction. When we do the math, that's 9 weeks that they're not getting guided reading instruction. And so we're opting to use that tool. Again, it's a great tool to get the necessary information for the students who really need the extra intervention.
Are there any other questions? I also want to thank you for in curriculum in general. There's not a meeting we go by that we talk about our curriculum, that doesn't blow me away as to the new programs and constantly not being satisfied with where we are and striving to be better. And I genuinely appreciate that as not just a member of the board, but having kids in district. I love that the teachers are part of the process and not just force-fed the process. So I greatly appreciate the work that your entire department puts in at every grade level. And certainly, while I had reservations losing you at MAMS, it's seamless how you guys work together for every age group to be covered. So thank you. We just wanted to make sure that you really enjoyed the experience. I will then turn to Student Representative Paulo Macalino for his, I guess this is it, his final report.
This is it. With only a week left to the school year, I can firmly say that we've had a productive and fun-filled year at this district, with many events, activities, awards, productions, and achievements. And the last month has been incredibly exceptional in containing such positive news. At Strathmore, students have prepared for their annual art show under the direction of Miss Christie, who turned the cafeteria into a beautiful gallery on the night of June 11th. Kindergarten students celebrated their last day today, June 17th, joined by Principal Barra, kindergarten teachers, and proud parents. At Cliffwood Celebration of the Arts was also a big success, which was accompanied by a live jazz band and a raffle. $900 was raised for the school's garden and art clubs. The third grade students enjoyed their class picnic with games, hot dogs, ice cream, and nice weather. It was a great way to end the year before they move on to Lloyd Road. The kindergarten students visited 7 Presidents Park, while the second grade students visited Monmouth Museum at Brookdale. The kindergarten celebration is set for tomorrow, June 18th at 10 a.m., while the third grade clap out is set for Monday, June 24th at 1 p.m. At Ravine Drive, the staff would like to wish Ellen Ninger a happy and healthy retirement. The kindergarten students have also been practicing their kindergarten celebration, which they are excited to share with their families. At Lloyd Road, the 5th grade students share their talent for the June 4th band performances, which they've been working on since the 4th grade, and around a third of 5th graders are currently playing an instrument. The 4th grade students enjoyed their annual field day on June 7th, while the 5th grade students enjoyed their end of the year trip to the pool club. At the middle school, the graduating 8th grade students had many events, including the pool day, AIDA trip, and formal at Sterling Gardens. Their graduation is set for Monday, June 24th. 7th grade students had their Hunger Games on June 12th. The band and choir picnics are set for tomorrow, June 18th. And at the high school, the administration held Senior Achievement Night on June 4th. For the seniors who receive awards and scholarships, the evening was also accompanied by performances by the cast of Newsies, Jazz Band, the Performing Arts Academy, and senior artwork. Academy graduation for the Performing Arts and Visual Arts, Civic, Business, and STEM academies occurred June 11th. The upperclassmen enjoyed their night at Ariana's Grand Ballroom for their June 10th prom. The cast of Newsies took home 8 Bassies out of 17 nominations. One of their Bassies included Outstanding Musical. Boys track and field won Central Jersey Group State 2 championships. The semi-formal is set for June 20th at St. Clemens, with the senior graduation happening on Monday, June 24th at Brookdale. If I were to add anything, suggestions I'd make, there have been a couple of concerns about sanitation in this building specifically, especially in rooms that, don't get used maybe as often, maybe a bathroom tucked away in the hallway, or, maybe a wing that's not as popular in use as, the main quad that we have here. And just dedicating the same attention to sanitation that you would a cafeteria to perhaps a room here that isn't as popular. Something else I picked up on is a couple of movements in the special education department with teachers to different schools. Although sometimes those may be necessary, we also have to take into account that a lot of those teachers have built special relationships with the students they work with, and they work with those students year after year, so sometimes it's hard for those students to adjust to a new teacher, especially when the previous teacher has had ample experience to understand how the best way to go about teaching them is. And then finally, something I picked up on looking at the looking at the presentation we were just given on math and literacy is, conducting more surveys and getting more feedback. Ultimately, the decisions we make on this board affect the students and teachers here, and especially at the end of the year and having 272 graduating seniors, asking them how they feel about their time here in school, or teachers on their curriculum, and really getting an understanding for the choices we make and how they affect the people that get affected by those choices. But regardless, I'm very proud to have been part of this district, and I've been given a lot of opportunities, and being part of this school and having the opportunities I've been given have put me where I'm going tomorrow and the person I am today. And, I wouldn't have traded my time here in Matawan Aberdeen Regional School District for anything else. It was my pleasure to serve. Love this community, and I love being involved, and that concludes my final student report.
Thank you, and if you want to, you certainly can leave, because we have the rest of the agenda to go to. Mr. Bombardier, I believe you are up with curriculum and instruction.
Okay, good evening. Curriculum instruction, beginning with Part A, travel. We have two staff members on the travel agenda just to approve mileage that was not included in the original paperwork. Two staff members attending the NJDOE ESEA application work session at no cost. One staff member attending the SIOP, which is Sheltered English Instruction, a train-the-trainer workshop, which will allow us to build capacity of our ESL teachers, and this teacher will then be able to train other teachers within the district in the sheltered instruction model. And that's at no cost. And one board member attending one staff member attending the New Jersey School Board Association workshop. Moving on to Part B of curriculum and instruction. The change since the COW is item number 35, is asking the board to approve the following teachers for their participation and compensation in the math pilot training that Mrs. Tobia presented on tonight, cost and amount as listed. And that concludes curriculum and instruction.
Can I have a motion and a second to approve the curriculum and instruction agenda?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Any questions or comments on the curriculum and instruction? Seeing none. Ms. Perez, can you take us through special services?
Sure. Under item number 1, there are hourly rates in red that are noted for board approval tonight for providers for the 2019-20 school year. Under kaleidoscope of services, Art or Health, the bottom of page 1, Dr. Alicio for the neurodevelopmental evaluation. On the top of page 2, for Dr. Wilder Willis, Dr. Worth. In the middle of the page, Dr. Moser for the OT evaluation and OT services. And on the top of page 3, Learning Tree Multicultural Multilingual Evaluations with the prices listed as well. New Hope Psychological Services, ITS Translation Services. Towards the middle of the page, Marianne Galloway for Bilingual Social Work Evaluation, and Sandra Kuhn for Audiological Evaluations. And those are all to commence July 1 of the 1920 school year. On page 4 of 5, under item number 4, we have one item for approval. There is an error here. It should read, we are recommending for board approval for the following students to receive bedside instruction for the 18-19 school year, as listed with those providers, Learning Well Education and PESI, and with the accounts are noted as well. Under item number 5, on page 5 of 5, we're asking for board approval for the following students to attend an out-of-district placement for the remainder of the 18-19 school year. Under item number 6, we're asking for board approval under pursuant to travel policy 6471 for the following staff member to receive travel related to routine business for the 18-19 school year. And under item number 7, we're asking for board approval for the membership of the Association for Recovery Schools for the 1920 school year, which allows us to, this is going to allow us to participate in professional development for staff members working at Keys Academy, but in addition to that, it also allows us to get certified as a recovery high school with the Association of Recovery Schools. That concludes special services.
Can I have a motion and a second to accept the special services agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments concerning the special services agenda? Seeing none, Mr. Liebman, I believe that leaves you to take us through personnel.
Thank you and good evening. The first changes for the board to take a look at on page 1 of 9 will be section B, leave of absence. The additions in red are on the bottom of page 2 and conclude on the top of page 3. On page 4 of 9, item number 2, college student observers, teachers, and interns for the 1920 school year. We have 2 names listed. The first student would be a student observer for the fall of 2019. The second individual listed would be an intern for the 1920 school year with CST Special Services. Item number 3, home instruction for the 18-19 school year. One addition which begins on the bottom of page 4 and additional students listed on the top of page 5 of 9. On page 7 of 9, item number 5, for the 2019 and 2020 summer, this is for bus drivers, van drivers, and transportation assistants. One additional name in red has been listed. Item number 6, for the 1920 summer interns, this is for the technology department. Part-time employees, 5 names are now listed in red. On page 8 of 9, item number 8, volunteers. 1 volunteer is listed for classroom volunteer with the effective dates of June 13th to June 30th, 2019. Item number 9, summer ESY program for the 1920 school year. 2 names are listed with their respective assignments. Item number 10, items A through H, no additional changes, which concludes the personnel agenda.
Can I have a motion and a second to accept the personnel agenda?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Any questions or comments concerning the personnel agenda?
My questions that I submitted were with regard to the staff listing, where the staff was listed as Keys and then to the high school, which I was happy to see that was just how we were classifying it based on the grant, so that's good. And then the only other thing I just had questioned was there was a lot of movement of guidance counselors, and I also noticed that we have a guidance counselor going on maternity leave, so I think we're going to have to probably be pretty mindful of that, especially in the one building. Hopefully we have a good plan in place.
Any other questions or comments? And I don't believe we have any policy, is that right? Okay, so I believe then we go to you, Mr. Ferrer, for finance.
Thank you. So we'll start off on page 2 of 8 with the changes from the curriculum, the whole meeting. Number 7 is the receipt and the recommendation of the bids for refurbished computers. Number 8 is the receipt and the recommendation for landscaping and grounds services. Number 9 is bids for additional transportation for to and from school, as Ms. Kaiser described before, in terms of the tiered system, and that continues on to page 4. Moving on to page 7, we populated the amounts that we received as a result of the allocation for the ESSIG federal grant. And number 27 on page 8 basically just identifies the source of the funds for the students that we're taking on as non-resident students. Back to the ESSA grant, also for July, we just received the allocations for IDEA as well. So in July, we'll have that recommendation to the board. And that concludes finance.
Can I have a motion and a second to accept the finance agenda?
I'll motion. I'll second.
Are there any questions or comments on the finance transportation agenda? Going once, going twice. Okay. Are there any public comments on the agenda items? Seeing none, Mr. Ferrer, can you take us through vote for any action items?
Thank you. So we'll start off with the curriculum and instruction agenda as presented by Mr. Bombardier. Mr. Branham?
Yes.
Mr. Montone?
On item number 31, I'm abstaining. The rest of the curriculum instruction, yes.
Thank you. Yes, and abstaining on number 31. Thank you very much. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Snappy?
Yes.
Ms. Whalen?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to special services. Mr. Branham?
Yes.
Mr. Montone?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Snappy?
Yes.
Ms. Whalen?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Thank you. Personnel. Mr. Branham?
Yes.
Mr. Montone?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Snappy?
Yes.
Ms. Whalen?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
And lastly, finance. Mr. Branham?
Yes.
Mr. Montone?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Snappy?
Yes.
Ms. Whalen?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Does anybody have any unfinished business that they'd like to address on the board? Seeing none, any new business anybody would like to address on the board? No. So I will now open it up to public comments for any additional items that are not included on the agenda. Come on down. We just need you to put your name and address. On the podium.
Hi, I'm Samantha BOE. I'm at 2 Sarahport, Madeline, New Jersey, and my daughter is at the going into the 3rd grade. My son is in kindergarten. I'm also an educator myself in management and I'm finishing my leadership degree, so this is actually a learning experience for me too. My daughter is accepted into the Gifted and Talented program at this house at Clifford Elementary, and I chose to turn it down, and I'm very proud of her, and I just wanted to put it out there that the only reason that I turned it down, and quite a few parents that I know have talked about turning it down, or possibly already decided to have turned it down because they had been fighting, is because of the need for just 1 year. And it's not to say there's anything wrong with the program, but I think it's important to give feedback to you so that you understand that when you do get people saying no, it might not be because they don't want their child in the program, it's just because of the need, and it's like what is needed. So I don't know how that can be fixed. I know that I spoke to Ms. Taya and team, so I'm aware that you set up that program, you had a committee, you planned it, I'm aware of all that. I gave history on it, but I just thought it was important to put it out there as a parent that there are quite a few parents that Moms campaign tonight, come with me, so I was nominated. But there were a few of us talking about it, and it was an issue that and there is a social emotional aspect to my daughter that is very anxious. So that is it, and I appreciate it. I really enjoy this district, and I think it's just a wonderful thing. And two of my district and I'm teaching, so thank you so much. Thank you.
Are there any other comments for our non-agenda items? Seeing none.
Yes.
Okay, then. Be it resolved that a closed session will be convened for the purposes of discussing personnel, legal, and privacy matters. The subject matter of these discussions will be disclosed to the public when the reason for confidentiality subsides. Although the board cannot guarantee it, the length of executive session is estimated to be about 30 minutes, after which the public meeting of the board shall reconvene and proceed with business. Action will take place. May I have a motion to go to executive session?
My motion.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are now in executive session.